So in this video, we're looking at simple grass. Now, really simple grass is you buy a couple of tufts or a bit of grass mat and stick it on. But if you want to do more bespoke grass or larger areas, then it's cheaper to buy a static grass applicator, static grass, and do it yourself. Now these bases, they're a brilliant size for showing off terrain techniques. I do love these sizes. These are from Seleucami in the Clone Wars. It's grass and little muddy, earthy trails through it. So quite an interesting section of grass to copy. So I started as last time with my custom 3D printed bases, and I glued in some magnets underneath because I store these on magnet trays, which is a very useful way of storing them. Once the glue has gone cool, I scuff up the bases with an emery board to make sure everything that I put on top sticks. You don't want it peeling off when you play. And now for the earth layer that comes first. Now you can buy a texture paste, there's loads of different brands out there, but I prefer to make my own because, well, it's cheaper. I use brown tile grout. If you don't have quite the right colour, you can add some acrylic paint in at this stage, and I use sand. Now the sand just makes it all a little bit grittier and gives it a bit texture, otherwise it dries too smooth. It's just paving sand, silver sand, not builder's sand that is bright red. And I mix it all together with PVA glue until I get a texture that I can use to dab onto the surface. If it's too runny, I add some extra sand. And then all I need to do is use a brush to stick it down onto that surface and create the textures that I want. There's not a lot of rocket science to this, so I'm just going to fast forward through it. Now for gaming, you want a really tough surface because you're going to be picking it up and moving it. But I also use this for my dioramas. Almost all scenery that I do has tile grout, sand and glue in it somewhere. Normally just mixed together in a paste, but sometimes I put it on dry as well. And for this piece here, it's got lines in it, and I just had the decision, do I do like I did in the Rishi Moon last time and carve them in afterwards, or do I do it like this from the start and try and avoid filling in those lines? In this case, I went with the not filling in the lines because tile grout's a lot tougher than foam. And when it's dry, this is what it looks like. Great for earth effect, and we'll look at mud in the next video. Now it's time to fill up your hopper for your grass applicator. Now you can get grass applicators quite cheaply. This is a more expensive knock one. I used to do a lot of grass work on model railways. I will say that the cheaper ones will only do shorter grass. If you want to get longer grass, then you need to get a more expensive, more powerful tool, but they'll all struggle a little bit, and that's where your hoover will help. So now your applicator's loaded, and I've got 2mm spring grass by WWS in there. It's time to put on your glue. Now this is actually a grass glue because I'm using it up, but you can easily use white glue or Mod Podge. You just don't have as long to work with it, so you need to work in smaller areas and a little bit more quickly. But all you do is put the glue on. I use a brush, and then you can put your applicator to go and just shake it over the top to get out the grass. Now if it comes out in a huge rush, don't tip your applicator as vertical, keep it slightly more as an angle. We want to go over it until you can't see the glue anymore, until the whole area is filled up. Now it may not look like it's standing upright at the moment, but you can turn it upside down and tap it, and you're left with only the grass that's gone into the glue, and it's always gone in one end first and is standing upright. Then just repeat until you've covered all your areas. Don't forget that all that grass you've tapped off, you can just put back into the applicator or even the packet and then reuse it. Now this is just one layer, and you can already see the effect coming together. But why stop at one layer? Once your glue is dry, you can add more layers. I'm using just a brush to add on small patches and tufts of different other grasses. First of all, I went with 4mm autumn, which was a bit too brown. Then I went with 6mm summer, which was a bit darker green. And you can just build up layer after layer, just like the first layer, to try and get a bit of variety through. Now you don't need to go overboard, and sometimes less is more. And one quick tip to help you. If you've got a fixed diorama and you don't want to turn it upside down, use a hoover covered with a pair of tights or pantyhose if you're American, over the end, and you can recover your grass that way. It will also help drag longer lengths of grass upright. So if your applicator just isn't powerful enough, you can suck the grass a little bit more vertical using a hoover. It's a great way of getting around the shortcomings you sometimes get with static grass. Now this grass is on bases, so I need to put some figures on. And when I did my Rishi Moon episode, which is the grey one at the top here with my shinies, this is the 501st Salukami episode, so these guys are in blue. See if you can spot Kix, Hardcase and Jessie. They're all name tagged in there with the right patterns on their armour. But people wrote to me and said I should pin my figures down through the base. And this is probably especially true of static grass because it's bouncy. Now I could have had these people standing on the earth sections all the time, which would have got round it, but I wasn't that clever. And I don't like to glue my people on first because I want to be able to do the grass without knocking them and get it in looking nice and even, because it was there before the people were. So it's up to you. I've just used super glue and Zapper here to glue the people on, and I will have to let you know how well that goes when I actually play with them. But please, a few of you have already written, but please let me know, do you glue? What do you do if you're doing static grass? Do you do it afterwards? How do you get your figures to stay robustly on your tabletop bases? For the rest of you watching the video because you want to know how to do terrain, for dioramas, you've still got the same problem, but you're probably not going to pick it up by a figure like you might for a base. Anyway, that's enough. Time for the final photos. I hope you enjoyed the video. Next time is mud, and don't forget subscribe, hit the bell button so you'll know when I do another video, and consider supporting me if you want to on Patreon or YouTube. Otherwise, just some exciting news to go through the final pictures. I am actually running a Kickstarter, hopefully in April, but my 3D printers for test printing just all broke this morning, so it's not going well. But I am running a Kickstarter for modular landing pads for tabletop gaming. Really excited, the creativity and the fun. You can follow me on Instagram and Facebook to see some sneak peeks, or my Discord. And if by the miracle of the YouTube algorithm you're watching this well in the future, it will be on late pledge, so you can always go back and buy it later. See you next time. Will be muddy.